Coming up, rising prices. As temperatures rise, so are the prices for some of your favorite things. We're going to explain why and what you can do to help mom and dad this summer. Also, they're shot.
I'm 4 years old. When my vaccine will be available?
The first coronavirus vaccines for the country's youngest kids are now available across the country. What you and your parents should know. Plus, in our latest Inspiring Kids installment, we'll introduce you to a teenager who is on a mission to promote reading and get books in the hands of kids in need.
Most of the Head Start children didn't have any books at home. And so it was an unbelievable feeling to just see the joy and the magical connection that they would have to that book.
And Kid Confidential.
I like being back in school so I can learn and grow my brain.
We'll hear from kids and what they've learned in school this year and the advice they have for next year's class.
Try and learn as much as you can because you're going to need it.
This is NBC Nightly News, Kids Edition.
Welcome back to Nightly News Kids Edition. It's great to be with you guys. We have a terrific lineup ahead, including our picture of the week. Plus, we'll introduce you to this third grade class from Jericho, New York, who will be here to share some fun facts about their hometown and also get one of their questions answered just in time for summer. And we'll also get some advice from some students as we wrap up the school year in a lot of places and hear from an expert on how you guys can de-stress this summer and relax a bit.
A couple of tips I want to say as you go into the summer that could really help you de-stress and focus on your mental health are the 3 R's.
But first, let's begin with one of the top stories we continue to follow, and that's inflation. I know we've talked about it before in this program. Our good friend Stephanie Rule is here now to explain why some of your favorite things simply cost more money these days and what you can do to help at home.
Hey there, Lester. As temperatures go up across the country this summer, something else is going up too. Prices on almost everything. I'm talking food, gasoline, even going away costs more for things like hotels or airplane tickets. And I know we've talked about this before, but there is some good news. And kids, there are actually some things that you can do to help your parents out. Let's start first with a quick review of what inflation is. That's when the price of something goes up. It can be anything, from ice cream to those summer shorts you're wearing. And as you've been hearing, prices have been going up really fast recently. Well, there's a couple of reasons why. First, supply. Remember the supply chain? It's how something like a bike gets made in one place, like China, and then is shipped to another place, like a store near you. Well, it's still not fixed. That means sometimes there are shortages. But people still want that bike and are willing to pay more to get it. That's pushing prices higher. So one way to prevent more inflation, fix the supply chain and get more items on shelves. That brings us to the next reason for higher prices, demand. Even if that bike costs more, today there are people willing to pay. That's called demand. Higher prices are really challenging for a lot of families, but some folks saved up during the pandemic and now they're spending. If they stop spending, if demand wasn't so strong, prices might stop going up so fast. So another way to prevent more inflation, reduce demand. A third way, higher interest rates. We've talked about this before. An interest rate is basically what it costs to borrow money. If your brother or sister wants to borrow money that you saved so they can buy that bike we've been talking about, you can tell them, sure, but you'll have to pay a fee. If the fee you charge is too high, they might say, forget it, I don't need that bike. If it costs too much money to borrow money to buy something, people might decide, I don't need it right now, I can wait. And if they aren't buying, that means less demand. And Lester, what happens when there's less demand? Prices stop rising so fast. So what can you do to help mom and dad and still have some fun this summer? One way is to look out for sales and coupons. Think of it like a treasure hunt. If you find ways to help your parents save money, maybe they can give you some of those savings. Keep an eye out for sales on 4th of July or back to school. There are usually good deals around then. As for coupons, sometimes they're offered at the grocery store, sometimes in the newspaper, so be on the lookout for them. And if your parents have a smartphone, maybe they'll let you borrow it to check out apps for coupons. And since gas prices are at record highs, that family road trip might not be an option for some. But there are definitely some fun things you can do this summer that might not cost anything at all. Help your parents look for things to do where you live that are free, like free nights at a local museum or a trip to a local park for a picnic or maybe a hike. And remember, let's get creative. There are always things you can do to have a lot of fun and not spend a lot of money. Lester?
Stephanie, thanks so much. Let's turn now to the pandemic. Since the start of this program, we've tried to answer your questions about the coronavirus in easy to understand ways. And since then, we've received a bunch of questions from you guys about the virus and also about the vaccines, including this one recently.
Hi, I'm Ivanka, and I'm 4 years old. When my vaccine will be available?
We love NBC Nightly News Kids Edition. Bye!
Well, thanks for watching, guys. Well, Ivanka, COVID vaccines for your age group are available right now in the U.S. Now, the vaccine made by a company called Pfizer will cover children ages 6 months to 4 years old. And a company called Moderna makes a vaccine that will cover children aged 6 months through 5 years old. Earlier this week, I spoke with Dr. Paul Offit, a pediatrician and the director of the Vaccine Education Center at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. Doctor, this is all very exciting, vaccines now for the youngest kids. What can you tell children and parents, though, about how much protection, how effective these vaccines might be?
I think these vaccines, both vaccines, are likely to be very effective against preventing severe illness. So the kind of illness that causes you to go to the hospital or go to the intensive care unit. So I think that we can feel comfortable about.
There's been a lot said about so-called side effects, things that happen after you get a shot of any vaccine. Have you seen anything that makes you concerned about these particular vaccines?
When you get a vaccine, you develop an immune response, and the immune response causes certain side effects like fever, headache, fatigue, joint pain. That's just part of your immune response. Fever especially, your body works better at a higher temperature. That's why you generate fever, so you can make a better immune response. So these are side effects, but they're expected in many ways with vaccines.
A lot of the children we've heard from during the course of this pandemic have talked about not being able to do certain things with their friends. Will this create new freedom for children who receive this vaccine?
Yes, it provides another layer of protection, so parents can feel more comfortable that should their child be exposed, that they will be protected against severe disease. So yes, I think it's an extra layer of protection.
All right, Dr. Offit, thank you very much for talking to us.
Thank you.
Many students across the country just wrapped up the school year, and we thought it would be fun to hear from you guys and how the year went. We recently spoke with some students at Kip Freedom Elementary School in the Bronx, New York, and asked them what they learned this year and the advice they have for next year's class.
I love school. I love being back in school because I get to see my friends again, and the hard thing is that I have to wear a mask and I have to be protective, but at least I get to be with people that I miss and I loved. I'm prepared for 3rd grade because I've been solving hard math questions and tests and all other math questions and measurements. My favorite class is science class because in science class we get to learn about habitat and more science like robots and animals and the sea and engineers and everything.
That you should always listen to the teacher and not make them frustrated because you're gonna miss out on all the fun stuff like in science.
Favorite thing about 3rd grade is how we got to do stuff in the day, and then we get to hang out with our friends, and then we get to see people who help us do what we need to do so we can move on in life.
I like being back in school so I can learn and grow my brain bigger and stronger, and so I can see my teachers.
To listen to the teacher because sometimes you can get in trouble if you don't listen to a teacher.
That they should make sure that they're tracking the teachers at all times because some of the teachers are getting more tough.
To not really think much about it, it's just you're going up a grade and you're going to be doing more complex math, so I would probably say try and learn as much as you can because you're going to need it.
that you should just be brave. And like a tip, do not leave your water bottle for like 2 weeks because you could get sick.
The new advice I could give them is stay positive. Try and never give up. And also try even if things get tough. Be optimistic and show valor. And also be positive and help people that need help.
What terrific advice, guys. And speaking of advice, as we've mentioned before in this program, we know this has been a challenging year for you guys with returning to the classroom. And us adults recognize how hard you guys have worked. And since it's graduation season, we thought we'd have one of our good friends weigh in on all you've accomplished and how you can relax.
I am so happy for all that you have accomplished this year. And thank you so much for having me as part of your journey. You really should give yourself a huge pat on the back. A couple of tips I want to say as you go into the summer that could really help you de-stress and focus on your mental health are the 3 R's. But wait, it's not what you're thinking about. Reading. Fiction is so excellent as a way of getting in touch with your creativity, your imagination, and learning about how other people think, which is a huge part of empathy and emotional intelligence, which is probably something you're hearing a lot about. The other R is writing, not quite an R, W, but writing about your emotions, keeping a journal about your toughest day, your best day, what you want to do next year, what you want to do this summer is really, really helpful. And the last R is relaxation. And this is the fun part. I love to relax in a bunch of ways. It could be with a good book. It could be with a pet. It could be walking outside in the park. Nature goes such a long way, whether it be collecting seashells at the beach with your parents, whether it's getting ice cream, screen time, which I'm okay with in short doses. I want you to find your way to relax. And nature is one way to do it.
Dr. Sue Varma, thanks very much. Okay, time now for our picture of the week. Check this out. This female elephant found a way to beat the heat at the Cincinnati Zoo. She headed straight for the waterfall. That's one way to stay cool. Now to our Inspiring Kids series. One teenager is on a mission to promote reading and get books in the hands of kids in need. Our friend Ann Thompson has details.
17-year-old Ronya Zuri loves to read and wants other kids to share in her passion.
As a child, I was rarely seen without a book in hand, so I started a classic book club. But then I started learning about book deserts in 9th grade when I was working on a project to set up a small library for migrant girls.
For some kids, just getting their hands on books is a challenge. Ronya is hoping to change that. In 2019, Ronya began her mission to help put an end to book deserts. Book deserts are areas where books are difficult to access. She founded the Literary Society, a nonprofit whose goal is to promote reading and donate books to children in need, especially among children ages 3 to 5 years old.
At this age, the children are too young to go out and check out a book themselves from the library, and then their families don't necessarily have the disposable income to go out and buy books.
Now, Ronya just finished her most ambitious project to date, gifting a new book to every child of families that live at or below the poverty line in her home state of West Virginia. She even donated her birthday money and entire allowance to the cause and helped raise the rest of the money for the books through fundraising.
Most of the Head Start children didn't have any books at home. And so it was an unbelievable feeling to just see the joy and the magical connection that they would have to that book.
Thanks to the Literary Society partnership with Head Start, a federal program, more than 6,700 books were delivered in West Virginia. Ronya also gained support from best-selling authors and senators in West Virginia. Now she is expanding her mission to other states and abroad. This summer, she will continue her Head Start tour, visiting several states and giving out brand new copies of If You Give a Mouse a Cookie.
When we hear the term book desert, we might feel overwhelmed, like, oh, I can't donate a whole library, but just one book can make a difference to a child in need.
And her advice to other kids?
Combine your passion into doing something that helps others. Like, for example, maybe you like to make bracelets, and you can turn that into maybe teaching younger children from underprivileged backgrounds to make bracelets. Just remember that any difference, no matter how small, is always impactful.
And thanks for bringing that terrific story. Finally, in our class chat series, we want to introduce you to some students from Cantiac Elementary School in Jericho, New York. Third grade teacher Mrs. Burrows told us about her class. And now it's their turn to tell our viewers a few things about where they live.
Hi everyone, I'm Meryl Burrows at Cantiac Elementary School in Jericho, New York, and here's my class.
Jericho is located on Long Island off the southeast corner of New York State.
Our town is located in the middle of the island. Some people say the island is shaped like a fish.
Some people say it looks like a crocodile's mouth.
We could take a train or drive a car to New York City in just 1 hour. New York City, also known as the Big Apple, is known for Broadway shows, the Empire State Building,
The Statue of Liberty,
and the Freedom Tower.
Did you know the Freedom Tower was built to be 1,776 feet tall since 1776 was the year the Declaration of Independence was signed?
We are completely surrounded by water, so we can be at the beach in just 20 minutes. Now back to you, Lester!
And they also have a question.
We designed amusement parks and water parks to finish a math unit on area and perimeter. We were wondering, how are rides in amusement parks and water parks designed? What do the architects do?
How do scientists and mathematicians get involved to create safer, fun rides?
Well, here to answer that question is Keith Carr from Legoland Roller Coasters.
Amusement parks are designed with experts in the field. Traditionally, we'll start with an internal creative department that will look at available areas for us to design into. We'll then work with ride manufacturers to create the engineering details of that specific roller coaster or that water slide to finish out with how we're going to physically construct it on site. Architects do a lot of things on our projects. They're responsible for being our point of record with the local government, as well as our contact to take our design inspiration and translate it into something that's actually constructible. Scientists and mathematicians are an integral part for creating these type of attractions and rides. They have to be able to calculate the forces, the speed, the length of the track, all so it works without it pausing or stalling or rolling backwards and staying on the track itself. There are height requirements in our attractions to make sure that people that come on can safely partake in the activity. So for example, a roller coaster that might have a loop-de-loop, we want to make sure that a child is large enough to stay within the safety constraints. So that's why we have height requirements in place.
All right. Thanks very much for that answer. And a big shout out to the third grade class at Cantiac Elementary School in Jericho, New York. Well, on that note, parents, just a reminder, if your child has a question about any topic in the news, email a video to us at nightlynewskids@nbcuni.com. You can also follow us on Instagram at nightlykids. And just a program note, you can catch a new episode of Nightly News Kids Edition this Saturday on NBC. Check your local listing for the time in your area. Thanks for watching, everyone, and remember to take care of yourself and each other. So long.